Welcome back to the Back Cover podcast. In today's episode, I talked with Kealan Patrick Burke. You might know him from his novellas like Sour Candy, Blanky, and Grim Portraits. We had a great conversation. We talked about what it was like for him to move from Ireland to Ohio, what it's like to write a new screenplay for a cult horror film classic. We also talk about grief and how that works with writing, and also what it's like to be an author dealing in social media and having to manage negative reviews. We talk a little bit about his new book coming out, Nerve Endings, and he shares some personal spooky stories, which of course you know is my favorite thing to ask each guest. Thank you so much to my patrons for making this possible. This podcast, this channel would not still be here if it was not for them. So an eternal thank you for that. Keeps me on my toes, keeps me going. I really appreciate it. And also, if you'd like to watch this podcast, you can watch it on YouTube on my channel, Harpies in the Trees, or you can just listen to it on Spotify and Amazon at the Back Cover Podcast. Let's go ahead and jump into the conversation. So I know that you're originally from Ireland.
Yes.
But you're now in Ohio. And have you stayed in Ohio, or did you
I moved around a little bit, but I've been kind of based here since I arrived. It's just, I was here so long in the beginning that I got to know so many people here that it didn't really make much sense to move. Even though every time I tell people where I am, they're like, not New York, not San Francisco, not LA, Ohio, really?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a great place, actually. I mean, it gets, it has a bad rap in a lot of ways for a lot of valid reasons, but I think the cost of living is pretty good here. The arts scene is pretty good here, and the geography, once you get outside the cities, is lovely.
What originally brought you to Ohio? Was it just work, or you were like, you gotta go to Ohio?
Yeah. It sounds very much like sometimes, you throw a dart at a map, but no, there were some valid reasons in the beginning. The primary motivator was that in Ireland at the time, I had graduated in journalism. And I had a head full of dreams of being this intrepid reporter with the fedora and the little thing sticking out of the hat saying press. So I was very naive. And the economy in Ireland at the time was absolutely terrible. There were no jobs, especially in that field. So I was working in a bar, and a woman walked in, an American tourist, and we talked, and she left. And a couple of months later, on my birthday, I think, she sent me plane tickets to come for 3 months to write specifically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that the setup was that if it didn't work, because at the time I had one story published in an absolutely no-name Irish magazine that pretty much published anyone who sent them anything. But of course I thought, I'm Stephen King now. Woot. But so it was basically a test to really find out whether or not what I wrote was publishable, if there was any, if I had any talent, or if I'd just been deluding myself, which, would hardly be the first time. And it took off almost immediately. So I ended up staying. I ended up getting married to the tourist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it escalated.
Her plan worked.
Her plan worked, yeah. She admitted it to me that was the plan. But for me, I thought, I'm getting out of a crappy economy, a place where I'm not happy at the moment.
No, great opportunity, yeah.
Great opportunity to write, and it was a quid pro quo kind of a thing, She got something out of it, I got something out of it. And it worked out, and it was great for years. And the writing took off. And yeah, I ended up just staying.
That's so cool. I mean, it almost feels like you were meant to be there,
Yeah, it was. It does.
Fell into place for you.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge believer in fate or destiny or any of those things, but it does feel like that fork in the road at the time. And I remember thinking, I've barely been outside of my hometown of Ireland. I think I went to London once, which is just basically 40 minutes on a plane. You go up, you come back down, you're in London. So the idea of leaving everyone and everything to get on a giant plane and fly here to people I didn't really know in a country I didn't know was terrifying. And that would have been the main reason I would have just said no, forget it, chickened out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt at the time like it was, you're being offered your future here. It's your
Well, it
destiny.
makes sense because it's like if you came just by yourself, like what network would you have? But if someone
Yeah.
brings you, like they can offer that network to you, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll forever be indebted to her for that because it was a wild gamble on her part too. I could have been a serial killer for all she knew, you know? And it might not have worked out. It could have been a disaster. But yeah, it seemed like a thing that I would regret not trying.
Yeah. Do you ever think about what it would have been like if you never left Ireland and like what your life would be like now?
Yeah, and every way I look at it, it seems like it would probably have been a disaster. Because as much as I enjoyed bar work, that's not what I wanted to do. I was writing stories on bar napkins and trying to keep writing at the time, but I think eventually I would have given it up and just gone into the workforce and I don't know, be making circuit boards or something,
Mhm.
which is fine. It's a respectable calling, but it's not what I wanted to do. So I don't
Yeah.
know how long I'd have been able to maintain my sanity, denying myself what I really felt I was always supposed to do, you know?
Yeah. I saw something really interesting on your website.
Oh no.
I wanted to talk to you about it because it is something so near and dear to my heart, and I was like really surprised about it. So I think this is the same film that I'm thinking of, which is The Changeling from 1980. Okay,
Mm,
which is a seminal film for me. It's like the film I watched as a kid that totally just baptized me into the whole world of the supernatural and that type of supernatural story, right? The haunted mansion with the mystery of the murder and like all kind of stuff. But that movie to me is so wonderful and so beautiful because I think it was just done so well. Like the tension and the dread, like it's not terrifying, but the tension is so high and it's so good. And it's something you rarely see in movies nowadays. Like tension is really lost, you know?
it's a beautiful, beautiful film, and it's also one of my favorites.
Really?
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, and the scene I keep coming back to. I watched the movie. Like I think I first saw it when I was about 14, and I have watched it every couple of years since. And that scene with the ghost perspective, flying along the stairs and down the stairs
Yeah.
with the boy whispering, that everyone points out the ball hopping down the stairs as the pivotal scene, the scene that freaked him out. Even Stephen King said that part freaked him out. But for me, it was always that ghost perspective.
The thing with the Changeling is like you're writing a screenplay for this, or you did like
I
they're
did.
your what's your
Um,
perspective on rewriting something like that? I think that's intense.
it
Like,
is. It is. And I will tell you I don't want to use the word hypocrisy because if I was sitting here and I got on social media and saw they're remaking The Changeling, I would go, no,
mhm.
no way, man, not that one. Don't touch it.
It's a masterpiece,
It's a
please.
masterpiece. Leave it alone. It doesn't need to be remade.
Yeah.
But in my defense, a couple of things happened. One, I'm not somebody who wasn't familiar with the movie and just thought, yeah, whatever, I'm been hired to do something, I'm going to do it. I adore that movie. I always have. And while I was sitting there and I was offered the chance to write it, I thought, well, should I take a shot at it or should we leave it with somebody who doesn't really appreciate the original and just does a jump scare filled crap fest?
Mm.
So I
Mhm.
thought, I'll try it. And secondly, they had been trying to the producer of the original movie is the guy who contacted me, Joel Michaels.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's been trying to get that remake off the ground for, I think, maybe 15 years now.
Okay.
And he went through a succession of screenwriters, some of whom are absolutely brilliant, some of whom I'm a big fan of. And when he came to me and asked if I would be interested in taking a shot at it, I thought, sure. And I was kind of laughing up my sleeve because I thought, if these guys couldn't do it, and I'm sure the scripts were great, but it wasn't what the producer was looking for. So he produced the original. The chance that I'm going to write it and it's going to be anything he's looking for is so remote. But what the hell? I'll try it. We'll see what happens.
I think that's a good way to go about it. I think one of my problems with remakes is like, don't just make the same thing, you know, like take a different perspective and, you know, I don't know, do something different with it, because we have the original. We can always go back to the original for that perspective and experience, you know, give me something different. I did pick up your Grimm portraits.
Oh, nice.
One of the reasons why I picked this up was because I love cursed art, like haunted art stuff. So this is like really called out to me. And in reading this, I think it kind of makes sense now. I would expect it to be a really interesting screenplay based on this alone. I'm excited. I hope that this gets remade, because that would be, I'd be so interested to see it, like so excited.
Well, and I'll tell you the biggest challenge for me, and it was presented immediately, was how do you write a new version of a beloved movie while still retaining the DNA of that movie, while still telling an original story? So that balancing act was easily the hardest part of it for me, because I think I wrote probably about 17 drafts of that screenplay. But I worked with the director at the time and the producer. We would have weekly, sometimes bi-weekly meetings, going through it line by line on what worked, what we want more of this scary shit. Let's do that. And let's cut some of this. Because another challenge was also that when you write books for a living, you have so much freedom to write as much as you want about whatever you want, build atmosphere. When it comes to screenplays, you cannot take a paragraph to describe a guy turning on a fucking lamp, you know? And there was a lot of that where they would say, this is beautiful writing, get rid of it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see what you mean. But I had a scene where the main character walks across the quad at an art college. And it literally took a long paragraph just describing the trees and the environment and everything like that. And I think it made it up until maybe the second to last draft of the script before they said, why is that there? Just say you walked across the quad. And I went, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But
I took a screenwriting class, and it was like exterior, you know, college, that's it, basically. You know, like, that's all it like.
Dude walks. We don't need to know the trees, what kind they are.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's like when you're a writer, you're like, but I need you to see it.
I need you to understand that it's a deciduous tree. Because they're like, how does that have any impact on anything? And I said, because I don't know. Yeah, there was a lot of unlearning bad habits from being primarily writer of books versus screenplay. But it was fascinating to me too, because one of the greatest lessons you learn going from books to screenplays is economy of language, how to strip things down. So then when I went back and wrote a book after the screenplay, I was very conscious of waffling on about things, you know?
I think it's kind of good because you kind of get to like the real core of like what you're trying to like talk about, you know, but it's definitely it's a skill, you know, because it's like
get to the point, stupid. Yeah,
it's like you feel like it almost feels painful to remove all of those things, you know.
It does because, and I mean, you know, I've spent my entire career unlearning those habits, which is, are you in love with your own language? Are you so, oh my God, that's a great sentence, versus does it need to be there?
Exactly.
Is it you describing these trees? Is it creating atmosphere, or are you actually delaying the action to the point where the reader is going, oh, geez, come on?
You know, sometimes a story doesn't have to be 300 pages, you know, and like, I don't want to dilute it just so it reaches 300 pages, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I'm such a big fan of the novella format, because I think that it gives...
You do have a lot of novellas. Like,
tons. I would rather write those than full-length novels any day of the week, because I feel it's long enough that you get to introduce the characters, the world, everything that happens, and then you don't overstay your welcome. It's all done. We delivered the shocks. Here's the ending. Goodbye.
Yeah.
You know, I don't believe in, well, back in 1867... he tripped over a curb and his life was never the same. And here's what that curb looked like.
Yeah.
You know, it's just get in there, get it done, get out.
going back to the Changeling really quickly, just
Mm,
because it's one of my nerdy things. So you might know this since you love the film too, but I know that the guy who wrote the screenplay, I was so obsessed, like, I don't know, 10 years ago about just finding out more about this story. Because one of the things about the Changeling to me that was very impacting was that it somehow felt real.
yeah,
Like, for some reason, the story just felt like it came from somewhere. So I was researching it, and apparently, the screenwriter, he wrote this story based on an experience that he had in a house, right?
yeah,
And he never really talks about where it is or, what happened. He's very close-lipped about it. But I was like, oh, well, that's why it feels real, because there's probably some experiences he had that he kind of worked on and then built on in the movie. And
yeah.
I just found that to be fascinating.
Yeah, it's true. And I'll tell you, one of the missed opportunities was in the process of writing the my version of the seance scene in the
The
film.
seance is so good.
Yeah, which that was tough because I didn't want to just repeat the original because that was cool back in the 80s. But then in the interim, seances have been done so many times in so many different ways, it wouldn't be particularly novel or unique or impactful. So I wanted to come and I started researching all different modern methods of seances. And eventually what I came up with was a way of honoring the original, but doing something entirely unexpected as well. And I won't talk about it.
Okay.
But the thing is,
I'm going to
for,
be thinking about it.
for a while I was racking my brains. It took weeks for me to try and come up with something for that scene that hadn't been done. The producer said to me, and we were brainstorming, and he said to me, the guy who had those experiences that the screenplay's based on made audio recordings of his experiences. Like he records himself talking about it, and I think that the screenwriters based the original on those recordings. And the producer said, yeah, I found them in a box. And I went, what? And he said, if I could figure out how to get someone to transfer those onto digital, I could send them to you. Maybe listening to those would jar something.
What?
Now, as it turned out, it clicked for me, and I wrote the scene, and they loved it. So it never came to pass, but I still wish I had heard those original recordings.
Oh my
That would have been cool.
God.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Now that I know that that's out there,
I know. Obsessed, right?
yes, it's a new obsession.
Yeah.
Oh my
I was
God.
the same, and it comes back to me every now and again. Why didn't I just lie and say I hadn't the scene written and just send me the files?
Yeah.
Or maybe someday I'll hear them. I don't know. But they exist. So
Oh man, I didn't know that was not in the Wikipedia.
no. And what would be really cool is if the movie does get made and it comes out, that would be something you could imagine going on the DVD extras where the audio files would be included. That'd be.
Have you seen Session 9?
Oh, I love it. Love Session 9.
Like, I love that film. And it's sort of similar, in some ways.
It's got that slow creep and that feeling that the haunting actually has weight. Like tangible weight while you're watching it. This oppressive, slowly suffocating everybody involved in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. But that was a huge inspiration. There's a lot of things like Exorcist 3. The screenwriter who was hired to do it before me pitched it as a reimagining, which always gives me the crawls when I hear that, because that just basically says I'm going to make a totally different movie and slap that name on it.
Yeah.
But this is, in a way, a reimagining, reboot, but also does things that people who are very familiar with the original won't be expecting.
That would be
It was a hell of an opportunity. I couldn't believe they asked me, and I couldn't believe that all these years later that my silly ass actually was the screenplay that they went with. They're shopping it around now. So,
oh my God, that's awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I just thought there's no way in hell this has got me. Come on. But yeah, but they dug it. So, we'll see. If all goes well, we will end up seeing it. And if it doesn't, well, it's still a very worthwhile experience learning to do that,
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed, because I want to see that, and I will now be thinking about it until it happens. So I'll put the intention into the universe for you. I also saw that you do graphic novels, or you write the stories for some graphic novels. It's for the Halloween night. Those look really cool, like
Oh,
the
I
art.
love those. That was totally nerding out about it. Like as I mentioned with the Changeling, my favorite horror director is John Carpenter, has been since I was that size. So the idea that all these years later, I would be sending him scripts for artists to put in a book, a series of comic book stories for Halloween with his name above the title,
Yeah.
that would have been enough for me to geek out for the rest of my life. But then I got to do Sour Candy as a graphic novel for him too. And I mean, you might be able to see it there behind me on the wall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was just the culmination. I thought, okay, I can die now. Yeah. John Carpenter's Sour Candy. I was like, yep, that's it. I'm done.
I feel like you really just, I don't know, you slipped into the zeitgeist really well. You're like, the things that you love kind of came to you and you got to work on these really cool things.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, and I sought them out. If they didn't come to me, I know what I nerd out about. I know what my passions are when it comes to horror. I'm such an absolute horror nerd in books, films, video games, all of it. So when those opportunities don't appear to be attainable, there's no avenue to take, I will obsess over it, hunt it down, and find a way in. It's the advice I give people. They always say, well, I've been writing for years and I haven't gotten anywhere. I was like, who are you asking for opportunities? Who are you hunting down and getting the information for? Whose agent should you be talking to? And the first 5 or 6 years I was here, that's pretty much all I did. It was just trying to find people I could talk to about, well, I love what you do. How do I get in on that? I'll do the work. I don't care. I love writing. I will do it. I will write it. I'll work for hire. I don't give a shit. Just point me in the right direction. Hook me up with somebody.
Yeah.
And what I have found is so many opportunities were created by asking instead of waiting. So many people just write great books and nothing happens, and they quit after a while because it's not getting anywhere.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just, it's hard for them to do the networking thing.
How about if I don't do that? That's the way I am. I mean, I one of the things that I hate the most is that when you're a kid and you're growing up and you're thinking, what do you want to be? And I thought I want to write horror novels because I've loved them forever. I want to do that. I want to make readers feel what these books are making me feel now. And it becomes this dream. And then one day you find yourself in that position where you've achieved the dream, but 50% of it is selling the product of that dream to strangers on the internet. It's making TikTok videos, and if you've seen mine, they're stupid as hell. But it's being a friggin' dancing clown to get the attention of the masses. We spend so much time going, "Hey, look at me! I am a writer. I write things. Please buy my book." That's not the parts. You don't know that when you're growing up. You just think I get to be sitting in an office in my mansion that I paid for with all the movies that they made from my best-selling New York Times books.
Right.
And
yeah,
they don't tell you that you're going to be on Instagram and TikTok making sure every day somebody sees your face so you won't be forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge problem. I mean, I think for creatives especially, they're not really into selling themselves. So it's like very hard, but you kind of have to do it these days.
I remember getting so excited once because I was put in touch with an agent. Very first time talking to an agent. And I said, this is what's going to happen. This agent's going to sign me. She's going to sell a 3-book deal and I'm going to live in my mansion overlooking the mountains tomorrow. And the first question, I was so nervous. I was so excited. I got on the phone. And we talked, we did the preamble, and they said, okay, so about your writing, I've read your book. It's fantastic. I think we could probably do something with this. But now to the important stuff. What is the cumulative total of your social media following? And I think at the time she asked me that, this is going back maybe 14 years, it was probably about 3,000, crossed them all. And I said that, sure, well, we'll have to do something about that. And I, in the back of my head, even at the time, I thought, why? I get the logistics of it. I get that there's a bigger chance of a publisher taking a shot on me if I have a mass following that I can peddle my books to. But I immediately got depressed about it, and I just thought, well, that means then that I have to spend the next couple of weeks, months, years building up a following on social media instead of building up a body of work to sell to that following.
Yeah.
And I still get depressed when I think about it. And you'll still encounter it. There'll still be publishers who'll ask, but yeah, it's disheartening. But honestly, you have to remember at all times why you got into this in the first place.
I mean, to be fair, like I like the way that I started talking to you is from that Christmas video that you posted.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, this guy's
See,
funny.
it works.
And yeah, and then that's when I reached out to you. I was like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I mean, I have actually another one of your books. I have Dead of Winter.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like, I was like, I don't know, like for some reason, just because the interaction was funny, and I was like, oh, this person's really funny. And then I was like, okay, you know, like, do you want to do a podcast or whatever?
Well, that's great. I mean, but that's good. And I mean, that things like that justify the very existence of this social media crap that you have to do.
Yeah. It's really hard now in the present world. It's like, you can't just be someone who makes something or sells something. You have to be an entertainer, a producer. It's just like so much stuff that you have to do, and it's overwhelming. I mean, even for me, like having the channel, and then I had TikTok and Instagram, and even making videos for that. Just like it was like, I just want to make the YouTube videos. I don't want to make additional videos because I'm tired. You know what I mean? Like I'm exhausted. I'm tired. It's so much effort and work, and so I pulled away a lot because I'm like, my sanity is gonna break.
I think we're all going to be living in the woods.
Yes.
Like the end of Fahrenheit. I think we're all going to we'll memorize our favorite books, and we're all just going to be walking around in circles in the woods. Just
yeah, I already have those fantasies of just like, I'm just going to go live in a cave. Like I need the space,
A cave that gets Hulu.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I don't want to give up all my creatures.
Yeah, let's calm down a little bit. I got to watch my true crime shows.
I also want to talk to you about gaming because I'm also a gamer. So I wanted to know, what are you playing now, and what is your go-to to play when you want to relax and
At the moment, I'm not playing anything because I have 2 novels due this year that I'm working on. So when I get into stuff that intensely, I try not to be distracted by anything else. But the last thing I played was the Silent Hill 2 remake.
Oh, yeah.
Which I loved. I thought they did a fantastic job.
It was so good.
And before that, the Dead Space remake, which I'm still lamenting the end of that series because I was so into them. Oh my God.
It's such a good premise. Like, so scary.
Lights off, speakers up. Ugh. Nothing was better than that game for me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the few games where I was always screaming. I was like, ah!
And nothing fictional scares me. And I mean, that's not a boast. It's just when you do this for so long that you can kind of telegraph. You can see it coming, and you just get so much more enjoyment about how they pull it off, whether it's effective or not. But it's very rare that I'm like, dude, when I'm watching something. But Dead Space did that to me about 8,000 times, and that's why I fell in love with it. I was shaking and sweating after that game, and I thought, oh my God, I love this.
Did you play Alien Isolation?
I tried to play it.
That was another one where I was like, my blood pressure is so high, I have to take breaks.
When you get to that point where you're like, am I actually enjoying this, or am I about to have a stroke?
Yeah. So you like horror games? Is that?
Oh yeah, okay. Love them. I mean, I like a lot of different types. I like RPGs. I love The Witcher 3.
I'm playing that right now,
and it's so ruining.
Good. It's ruining my life because all I want to do is play it.
Yep, and the writing in that game in particular struck me. There's some fantastic quest design. Like I was just really, really blown away by it. Skyrim, Fallout, all those RPGs.
Yeah.
I love all that.
Same. Yeah, those are all my same favorites. Have you played Prey?
Oh, I have. I love that developers games, Dishonored. And what was the last one they did? I think it's got loop in it. The word loop.
Deathloop.
That's the one. I love that too. It takes me so long to play games because I'm a big look in the corners person.
Exactly.
If the game starts you in the middle of a path, I will immediately turn around and see how far back I can go and what's hidden.
Yeah.
Sort of the Uncharted games for that as well. They're always hiding shit
Oh,
everywhere.
I love Uncharted. I wish Uncharted was a little more open world, but it's
Yeah.
so fun to play. It's really easy. It's like kind of like just brainless fun
Yeah.
because it kind of leads you. Yeah, I love those. The movie, no, didn't love it, but the games are
I'm
awesome.
sorry not to be controversial, but the minute I knew Mark Wahlberg was in it, I went, oh,
Yeah, like who? Why?
hey,
Why?
let's jump across ledges.
Yeah, just really bad casting. At so
Yeah.
much was going on with that. To switch gears a little bit, I know that you have a book coming out this February, Nerve
hmm
Endings, and this is another short story collection.
Yeah, March 1st. It was originally intended to be released on February 28th, but another writer let me know that that is the day that they're
Oh, I think I saw your post about that.
doing a no buying from Amazon thing. I will say for buying books, a good alternative is
I
bookshop.org.
just learned about them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. They're good. I like them. And I try whenever possible when I'm announcing a book to put links to them as well to give people the choice on which, if Amazon is your bag, cool, do it. If it's not, these guys support independent writers in a big way.
Yeah, that's going to be my go-to for buying physical books. Is
Yeah.
Bookstore. Can you tell me a little bit about Nerve Endings and like what
Yeah.
like I know there's supposed to be like stories that I guess get under your skin.
Right. It kind of, the title works in two ways. One, yeah, it's the very obvious. I want to jangle your nerves with these stories. The difference being as well, though, that I wrote them when my own nerves were shot. A great majority of the stories were written after my father passed away a couple of years back. A single most catastrophic thing I've ever dealt with. So I think my voice changed, my approach to horror changed, my perspective on a lot of just normal things changed. And as a result, after taking the necessary time where I was unable to write because of the grief, I poured it all in there. So while I'm already kind of known for writing about grief before I even experienced the worst kind, these are different. These help me deal with them. In reading through it 100 times over, I could see all the parts where I was working my own stuff out in them. So I'm in them a lot more maybe in these stories than I have been before. And working out traumas and sadness and grief and anger and all of that. So there's a lot of that in these stories. They still take the form, as they always will, of Twilight Zone stories. Okay, normal men walking down the street, whoa, shit, what's that? And something goes weird. But yeah, there's I think it's more of a personal book than previous collections. And because of that, I'm really proud of it, because there's something about putting so much of yourself in there and then just handing it to people you don't know and having them read it. And a lot of people will take away from it exactly what I want, which is just, oh, they're creepy stories. Others will see deeper into them and go, mm-hmm. Obviously, that's going through some shit there. But that's good. It's good because it makes me feel good to be able to share that side of myself with people, maybe in a more overt way than I have before. It helped me. It helped me to write the stories, and I hope as well that it helps people to read them.
That's interesting because I used to be a musician, and when I would write songs, like I never wrote songs that were like I'm angry or I'm sad, or it wasn't very clear. It was like covered in all kinds of symbolism and whatever, because I didn't really want to be vulnerable like that.
Yeah.
You know, after all of that was over, we were kind of talking about getting back together. It's not something I want to do, but when I was thinking about it, I was like, I feel like I'm just at this point in my life that I think I would need to be vulnerable, and I would need to be, I don't know, like you said, a little more overt about, what I'm talking about, what I'm feeling. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do it,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a struggle because I feel like you get some really good stuff from that.
Absolutely.
But
if your way of presenting it wrapped in layers and a little more obscure, that's just a level of protection for yourself, a way of maintaining that necessary distance between you and your audience. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think most people do it that way. I do too. But this is one of those ones where I just kind of, that layer was a lot thinner,
Yeah.
and that's hence the title, because I think that it's like having your nerves exposed for once. Because grief to me is like that. You can pretty much endure anything, but grief is one of those things that really just feels like it's opened you and leaving your heart exposed to the elements.
Can you share one of the stories? Like, just like, you don't want to, no spoilers or anything, but maybe just one you share?
Yeah. There's one of them. One of them is one of my favorites for all the worst reasons. I was in the process of writing a story for an anthology about insects by Michael Phillips. It was called The World Belongs to Us. And I had a completely different idea. I was maybe 15 pages into it. A record producer taking an ill-advised shortcut, and things go bad. Insects. And I abandoned it because I had to stop writing because my father died, and I came back about 2 months later. I wrote to the editor and said, I'm going to be late with the story because, my father passed away, and he was great about it. I said, yeah, whenever you're ready. And when I came back, I wrote a completely different story. It's called Attaboy. And I'll be misquoting it now, but I think that the beginning is something like 3 days after my father died, I started looking into the process of digging him back up. And I love that story because it was the first thing I wrote after I came back to writing, still grieving, but the sheer force of grief and the anger and the sadness and everything that I felt, I think was perfectly encapsulated in that story, while still having it on the surface be Tales from the Crypt monster story or, whatever, insect-related story.
Did you feel like like when you were done writing all the stories, did you feel some relief? Did you feel like you kind of shifted, that onto the book and kind of became its own thing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with grief, it's a perpetual thing. It becomes like a second skin for you for the rest of your life. I remember in the Changeling script, going back to that, I had to take a break from that at the time too and come back and finish it. But when I finished it, it was much different than it had been. I basically rewrote the whole thing with grief in mind, and as much.
And that's interesting because the Changeling is about grief.
Yes, yeah, and the whole movie, the script they ended up going with was powered entirely by grief, and I think it's an absolutely much better story as a result. Obviously, I wish my father hadn't had to pass away for that inspiration or for that ability to be in me to do it. But yeah, there's a number of things that, a number of projects at about that time that definitely helped me cope with it.
I think that's the power of art, is, we all have different ideas about what art is, but to me personally, art is like human experience, right? Yeah. So when we take these experiences and we make something from it, I think that's like so important to us as human beings to do, because those times where you're keeping it in for so long and it's just you're not moving on, you're not healing, you're not doing anything. You need to do something with it. At least that's the way I feel.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely that, because I think without art, and we live in an age now where it's devalued and it's looked down upon, anti-intellectualism and everything. Yeah. But honestly, without art, I would be destroyed 1,000 times over. This is what I do. It's what my passion. I love it. Everything that I can't say out loud, I say in the stories. It's my way of talking to the world, even when I don't want to.
There are people who don't need that. They don't need to do that process. And that's fine. It's totally cool. I saw that you have, let me go back to Grim Portraits real quickly. So I love these. And one of the things that I loved about this collection a lot, I read a lot of horror. I read exclusively only horror, and I've been reading for a long time. So I'm kind of picky and whatever.
Right.
But what I liked about these stories were just how unique they were with this theme. They were not anything I was expecting, which is, for a horror fan, kind of hard sometimes. I love mansion stories, but to be fair, they're always the same. But I love them. They're my sweet treats or something, But this was so cool because it was every story was different, like totally different. And all your takes were totally different. It's very sophisticated. It's very interesting. Like there's a little bit of ambiguity, but it's not ambiguity where you're like, what? It's kind of more like,
Right.
There's this little, there's a vibe here. There's something there, and it's a little unsettling. And I'm not exactly like, the first story was my favorite. The Sometimes They See Me, and this one is a little like, kind of reminds me of like a French New Wave film in a sense, or something. Or like you're watching it, but it's not on the nose. It's like there's a lot of different little hints here and there. There's things that are going on, and you kind of have to think about it a little bit. You got to sit with it, and I love that. You know. So what I wanted to ask you, what artwork or what painting freaks you out? Like, is there artwork out there that you felt like, I think of Bakinski and like Giger and artists like that and stuff, or Francis Bacon, for instance. Was there any type of artwork that you had in mind that kind of jump-started this?
I went to a gallery showing downtown here in Columbus, and there was a painting of a woman reclined on a couch with a single tear running down the side of her face. And she was kind of painted in a blue. Her dress was blue. Her skin was kind of more bluish gray. She was clearly alive, but sallow and depressed. And she's on the couch, and above the couch is a picture, I think, of a farmhouse, and it's crooked. And I couldn't stop staring at it. It was like a wind had just blown through that room right before I stood in front of the frame. And I desperately wanted to know why she was there, what this expression meant. It's obviously sadness, but there's also a firmness in her eyes. So is this a moment where she's about to resolve to take care of whatever left her in the situation in the first place? But it told so many stories, it's capturing this moment, the before, during, and after was circling around your head, trying to figure out the tale that went with it. And I could not stop thinking about that painting for days, weeks after that. And that to me is what art does. I went to his website after that and looked at it, and everything he's done is equally haunting. But yeah, so art will have that effect on me, and that's what I tried to do with that collection. Is there's a little bit of an abstract perspective. So the book itself is abstract art.
I have to interrupt this conversation because when I had this interview with Kealan, I had it on Zencastr. I had to stop it and start it again for another hour session, and I thought it was recording. It was not, so we did lose some of that conversation. We were mainly just talking about art and how art is, we're not just looking for beauty in art, we're also looking for a little bit more depth, more layers, a little bit more going on than just beauty. And I was sharing my love of Ireland from when I was a kid. Ireland was the spookiest place in the world. All I wanted to do was hear a banshee, go to a haunted castle, see the lady in white. That's all I wanted to do. And we're talking about this because he has a new book coming out that takes place in Ireland. So let's go ahead and jump back into that conversation.
Okay, so to jump back in, The Widows of Winding Gale.
Yes.
Like I was saying, I'm a big fan of spooky Ireland, and this takes place in Ireland. So would you be so kind as to just tell me again about what it's about?
Yeah, it's about, it's set in the 40s on a remote island off the coast of Ireland, where a bunch of fishermen, because the fishing stocks have been depleted around the island, push further on one of their fishing trips than they normally do and run afoul of something. And this something that they unleash then comes for the island and the now widows of Winding Gale. Hardy Irish women who have to defend against something otherworldly.
That sounds really spooky and just eerie. I can see it in my head already. I imagine it to be kind of a rocky island,
Very much so. But I've done some stuff I've never done before with this one. It was actually really interesting. And there's some really messed up stuff in it. It was funny because I talked to my agent a couple of months back, and she said, this novella, Cottonmouth, the prequel to Kin, she said it's actually more of a literary story. I like that. Would you think in your future you would stray away from overt horror and maybe more thriller noir adjacent stuff, less violent? And I thought, yeah, sure, I could do that. And then the next thing I wrote was The Widows of Winding Gale, and it's still
You're like, I tried.
It didn't work. It didn't take. That's right. It starts off calm and then leads me to hell for the rest of the story. Yeah. But I got to write a sea shanty. I got to write sections in Gaelic. You got to create some kinds of new aquatic creatures and stuff. It was fun.
It would be great if you could have like someone actually make that, like perform that song.
Oh, cool. I'd love that. Remember during the pandemic, I got obsessed with sea shanties?
Yes.
Everybody got obsessed.
Bring that up. Yeah. I think it kind of started with the Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that? Like it was the Misty Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Misty Mountains cold, okay?
Yeah.
Like I remember that started, and then like we started seeing like these more sea shanty things going on, and then you saw on TikTok like everybody was stitching them. It was so
Vikings on there singing songs and shit. I was like, what century are we in?
You need to do that for your social media.
I do. I got to figure out a way to do that. That would be perfect. I would love to hear it because I heard it for so long in my head that it would be amazing.
Okay, so I did ask you if you had a personal like supernatural experience, or you had an urban legend or myth or somewhere in Ohio or Ireland.
I tend to like be an absolute skeptic when it comes to that stuff. I won't just go, oh well, this was obviously a ghost. I will dance around in any way possible to try and rationalize it, and usually settle on some rationalization that sounds like the most logical. It was a draft. It's something in the pipes. But my brother-in-law came to visit. This is going back 16, 17 years ago, maybe. My brother-in-law came to visit, and there was a white oval mirror upstairs hanging over the bathroom. And he was shaving, and the glass fell out of it and smashed into the sink. And he was like, ah, Jesus. And then he looks up, and there's this guy looking back at him. And it was a charcoal portrait of a stern-looking man. And it was hard to make out what was written on it, except I think it said Delaware, Ohio, or something county, which is where we were at the time. So we talked to my wife's mom, and she said she picked it up at a yard sale just as the mirror. Didn't know there was anything behind it. Of course, here I am thinking of all the things that have happened in a bathroom, and here's this scowling son of a bitch behind it watching.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah, we took it. It turned out that he was a colonel in the army or something here back in 1920 something.
Oh, so it was an old painting or sketch.
Yeah, old charcoal sketch, really well detailed, amazing. So we took it downstairs because of the broken glass, and we leaned it up against the sideboard downstairs. At some point, everybody left the house. I think we went into town to groceries or something like that. When we came back, the picture was hanging back upstairs in the bathroom over the sink. And I assumed her brother had put it there. He said, no, why would I do that? So nobody put it there. That night I remember I was watching CSI Miami or something, or New York, one of the silly ones, and we heard children's footsteps running down the back stairs of the house, the wooden steps. And then a clap, and it stopped. And I, of course, went, what the fuck was that? Well, what was that? Come on. And then I put the painting on eBay, because I was telling people online this as it was happening. On a horror message board I was on at the time, I was telling the story as it was happening. And somebody said, would you consider selling it? And I said, well, a bunch of people have asked me that. So rather than try and haggle with you guys, I'm just going to stick it up on eBay and you can go, bid on it. So they did. And it sold to a guy in Florida. And I said to him, do me a favor, and if you get this, I'm a total skeptic. I said, but if you get this and you experience anything, will you let me know? And he said, yeah, no problem. So I shipped it off to him. A couple of weeks later, I wrote to him, and his email bounced. So I don't know what happened.
Oh, interesting.
Well, my theory is that the guy in the picture ate the other guy who bought it.
That is the rational line of thinking that I was going.
And then wobbled over and canceled his email account.
Yeah, he was like, you're not telling anybody about this.
Yeah.
That's pretty eerie. So did you have anything else happen once the mirror or the frame left, I guess?
Once it was gone, that was the end of it. No.
Wow. So it was almost like the mirror breaking kind of released something?
Yeah, maybe my own madness. I don't know. But
maybe.
Yeah.
That is pretty uncanny, though. That's pretty weird.
Yeah, I mean, the whole relocating portrait I could have just put down to anything. But the sounds that night of what sounded like kids running down the stairs and somebody telling them to slow down by clapping.
Yeah.
That was a weird one. I don't know. I can't.
I had an experience once in a hotel where I heard someone, they talked like I was sitting here and I heard them like they were right here. And it was so clear. And it was so, what I always tell people that was the strangest thing about it was not so much the voice. It was when I was sitting there and before the voice spoke, it felt like somebody opened a door. Like, you know when you open like a basement door and there's like this little bit of like environmental change? You can kind of hear maybe the basement's ambiance and you can feel the coldness and you just can feel that something has opened, a door has opened. That's what it felt like before the voice spoke. And that was the thing that I think was so weird to me. And it didn't say anything interesting. It just said, "Where are you guys going?" And it was a woman's voice and it was a whisper. And I wasn't alone. My friend heard it too. So I was like, okay, we're not nuts. But that was a thing that I always think, nobody thinks that's interesting but me, that feeling of like a door opening. Because I watch so many ghost shows, even though I know they're all fake, I still love them because they're fun. But there's one podcast I listen to that's very interesting. It's a medium and they kind of like go and they investigate places or whatever. But she said something where it was like, she talks about portals opening and closing and whatever. And I was always like, portal, but when I think back to this experience, I'm like, it kind of felt like that a little bit, like a portal opened, someone was able to say something and then it was gone. It was so weird.
I mean, the thing is, I'd be the first to tell you I don't believe in any of that stuff. None of it. And yet when I was shopping for houses 20 years ago or something, went into these houses and thought, this one's really nice, we'll come back to it. This one's really nice, don't like this one, it's too small. Walked into one of the houses and passed just through what felt like cold, but the absolute misery I felt in that moment, the negative emotion, and I was totally up for doing this. I was in a good mood the whole lot. Walked through just this, it was like passing through a barrier of somebody else's hate. And I just went, yeah, we're not buying this, bye. Gone. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was asbestos. I don't know. It could have been anything. But that awful sensation of passing through that just little film of air was so bad and depressed me so much instantly that I turned around and said, forget it. Can't live here. Nope.
That was probably a good decision. Yeah. That's super interesting though. I'm going to be thinking about that story because obviously there's not a lot to the story, but there's enough where it's like, ooh.
I almost wrote it to include it in Grim Portraits because it would have been perfect for that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yes. Why didn't you do that?
I couldn't write it. I kept trying and I just couldn't do it. Plus there was no ending. So I think I just got frustrated with it and then decided I'll write about it someday, but not until I have a better ending than the one that actually happened.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe that painting doesn't want to be written about.
No, and maybe that cold spot I walked through was eBay man's ghost.
Yes. He was like, how dare you tell me
that damn painting?
Yeah. Could be. Who knows,
Anybody else feel it wasn't actually negative, it was just a negative review. That's what I walked through.
Yeah, negative review.
Ghost at me. Thanks.
Negative reviews are I see a lot of authors handle them in many, many different ways. What is your way of handling a negative review?
I don't.
I like that.
I mean, it's not my business, one. I mean, it's always, when I encounter them, it is obviously disappointing because ultimately you want everyone to enjoy your work. But if they don't, they paid money for your book, they have the right to say what they thought about it. That's it. And authors need to stay the fuck out of that space.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I mean, I feel like if you make anything and you put it out there, it's like, well, it's out there, so it can be analyzed and critiqued, and that's kind of just what everyone's supposed to do, kind of,
Well, yeah, you go see a movie and it's disappointing. You post on social media about it. You don't have the director coming after you, going, "Hey, come on."
Yes,
It's just leave it. We want everything to be enjoyed by everyone, but that's not real life.
Yeah, I think it's a very hard space, because I think for authors it's like people have a direct line to you, and I think that's a problem with social media.
It is, because despite saying that I don't deal with negative reviews, I don't address them. When you're tagged in them, that to me feels a little classless. It feels like they want to rub your face in it, whether or not that's the intent. That's how it always feels when, somebody tagged me in a review, and you look at it and go, this is dog shit. This guy needs to throw himself off a bridge. You're there going, why did you want me to see that?
Yeah.
Just to ruin my day? Because I honestly could have quite happily just have gone without knowing that you hated it this much.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I read a book I really love, I will talk about it up and down. If I read a book I don't like, I never mention it. And somebody once tried to call me out on that once, and said, yes, but as a successful author, that was their first mistake. As a successful author yourself, you owe it to readers to be honest about what you think of other people's books. And I went, interesting point. And no, the fuck I do not, because I'm also a consumer. So if I read something for enjoyment and I don't enjoy it, I set it aside and find one I do. But it does absolutely makes no difference whether I tell people what I don't enjoy, except to the author who has to see me smack talking his book. And I won't do it. I know there are authors out there who delight in tearing other authors down. It's like that they feel that they need to be controversial or, edgy. But I won't do it, because what I recognize in every book, even the worst books that I've read, is the intent behind them and the hard work. I saw a thing this morning. First thing I saw when I logged on social media was, okay, it's time to stop writing depressing shit. We need hope right now. So let's just write about sunshine and hope. And I swear to God, my middle finger grew about the same length as my leg. I was like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
You're classifying horror as this depressing shit that nobody wants to read. One, people always want to read horror. Two, it is as viable as a response to the shitscape we're in now than a comedy or a romance or anything else.
But people don't understand, like, if they don't read a lot of horror and they're not in the whole entire horror world or whatever, it's like, you don't get it. Like, these stories are deep stories. They're about racism, they're about misogyny, they're about grief, they're about all kinds of different things. And they're just kind of wrapped up in something that's a little, spooky or out there or something, because it's a way of dealing with these things and seeing other, like, I think, like, the thing about horror that's really interesting is it can give you perspectives about things that you will never experience in your life. I'm reading Tender as the Flesh right now, which is pretty intense. And it's about state-sanctioned cannibalism. And I don't think I'll ever be in that situation. But there's more to that story than just cannibalism. It's a kind of really layered. It's kind of talking about things, but with this other kind of wrapper around it. And I think horror is like one of the best ways to talk about things people don't want to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the most, I find anyway, that it's the most honest lens through which to view the human experience.
I don't understand why people don't like the dark stuff. Like, they always say, oh, it's so depressing, it's so sad. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, it makes me so happy to be alive in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, as I've described it before as being, it's actually addressed in Nerve Endings in the introduction. It's the question I always get up: how can you write horror in times like these? I think it's imperative to write horror in times like these. You can't do jack shit about the way the world is going down the toilet right now, but you can open a book, read about a monster, close it, and you've conquered it. It's done.
Yeah. I was telling someone that, where I was like, the thing about horror is that, one, it's not real. Okay. So, but you're reading something that has a beginning and middle of an end, and you have things that you won't normally get in life. you don't always get resolution. You always don't get like the ability to find out what's happening. You don't always get closure. But in these stories, right, you get it. Like, you beat the monster, you find out what's happening, you solve the mystery, you get to the end. And maybe the end might be kind of bad, but you get through it. That's what I don't get in real life, is like those things, closure.
And you close the book and it's over.
Yeah.
You've escaped it, you know? Then you go back to the real world where you can't escape shit.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's the thing that's like so hard to explain to people. To me, the world does not make a lot of sense right now. But books make sense. They have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is that it makes sense in this world. These worlds have rules. They have, whatever. That makes sense. In real life, a lot of it doesn't make sense, in a lot of ways.
I can't remember who said it, but somebody said that there's a rhythm in books that doesn't exist in an atonal world.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it.
I remember where I heard it. It was years ago.
When I first got into doing the booktuber thing, like 7 years ago, I was trying to get back into reading horror, but all of the horror I read was when I was like 14, 12, so like Stephen King, Dean Koontz, like all those dudes, John Saul, like all those guys, right? And I kind of grew out of that. Like, I'm not really looking for that right now, but I was like, I don't even know where to go. Where do I find the kind of books that I want to read? And then I discovered booktubers, and I was like, okay. And that helped me get back into reading. That was so great. I'm able to find the books that I like. But if you're someone who doesn't have that connection or don't know where to look, even if you want to read, you're like, I guess I'll just go off the bestsellers list at Barnes & Noble, which good luck with that.
Yeah. And I think that independent horror is having a moment now.
Oh,
not the first one by far, but some of the stuff that's out there right now is incredible.
I think with horror, what was missing for a long time is just like different perspectives, different culture, different experiences. And that's what I'm looking for, is the haunted house from a different perspective, from a different type of person, from somewhere else, because that's exciting. And I'm seeing a lot of that. And that's so cool to me. And I think like, I love that mostly they're novellas, because you can just read them so quickly and you can collect them, and they're just so nice. And you can get a really good sense of the author if you want to read more of their work and things like that. So yeah, it's been a great movement, especially just for a reader, Yeah,
so. And it doesn't take, like, the shorter the book is, the less investment it requires, so that if you don't enjoy it, you haven't lost days to it, That's why I write them, because, people tend to complain less about novellas because they didn't put so much time and effort into them. They're like,
it is a lot of time.
It's either finish this in an hour, it was great, or finish this in an hour and threw it across the room, move down to something else. No harm, no foul.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about reading is that it is kind of a luxury, right? I mean, you need time, and it's not like a movie where you can just watch it. You really have to be more active in reading the book and stuff.
Engage your brain. Yeah.
You need your brain. Yeah. You need your brain. And, my brain has been missing for a couple of years, so it's been hard to get back into reading. But yeah.
Just a picture of your brain on the back of milk cartons. How do you see mind?
Yeah, I should put it on a jar. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Ohio. So you said that you have a favorite bookstore called Pan Yan. Is that right?
Yeah, in Tiffin. Yeah.
And it's a pretty far drive for you. You said it's like 2 hours or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's worth it every time. It's one of those places where on one of the book signings I did there, I think it was a Saturday, and for whatever reason, the streets were kind of quiet, and I went, oh no, it's going to be one of those signings. We're just sitting there talking to the staff all day because there's nobody in the store. But then gradually people started showing up, and I thought, well, this is promising until I realized they weren't there for me. And which is, good taste on their part, I guess, but whatever. So they're looking for books, and the staff would shoot over to them and be like, what genre do you like? Can I help you find something? And they'd be like, well, I'm looking for something. Okay, here's what you need. And also, do you read horror? Because our guest today is. And they would direct everyone over to the table. And then you end up with a line of people who probably just doing it to be nice and have no interest in horror, who are getting signed copies of your books because they've been steered there by the staff, who are total horror freaks.
I love that. I love
was
that.
So cool. Well, it's the difference between me sitting there feeling like a friggin' tool and, which has happened before because for whatever reason, either because I suck or because nobody advertised it or whatever.
Yeah.
Some days you get book signings where 5 people will show up.
Yeah, that anxiety would be too hard for me.
I don't mind it because it's 5 people. It's way better than 4. And way better than 0. So,
yeah. But that's great. I love when I go to a bookstore and you meet people who work there who actually know books, like books, care about books.
Yeah, and it's that passion, that I don't see in a lot of the bookstores I go to, but they take it as a project. Like they love having regional, local authors come in and sign their stuff. They will order those books. Like I think they have every single one of my books available on the shelves down there. And they just throw wild events all the time and get as many authors as they can together. And it's like at a party in the store. It's just a cool place. I mean,
that sounds so fun.
Yeah, I love it down there. So it's always worth the drive because even if you're just going there to buy books, they've got a lot of indie authors on the shelves, and that's pretty great.
Yeah, that's a problem I have is finding indie authors in stores because
we don't get the distribution. We have got to go through what is Ingram, which comes with its own kind of headaches. So a lot of people just don't. They just trust Amazon to distribute them, which they don't really.
Yeah. So, how did you make that relationship with them? Did you just like come to an event and just say, I'm a local author? Or
I think they reached out to me. I think Bevan Nicole was one of the staff members there, and she'd been a reader of mine. So I think when it came time to come up with events, she said, well, I know this guy's local. Let's get his skinny ass down here and see what happens.
That's great.
Yeah. So, and the first event was fantastic. I mean, there was a lot of people there. I met some amazing people. And we had a Q&A there that went for about an hour, which was nuts to me. I thought there'd be maybe, half a dozen people there maybe, but it's a nice crowd and they were all engaged and they had lots of questions about the books and time flew. And then I was out of there with a muffin provided by the staff.
They sent you with a treat on your way home.
That's great. Book bag. I was happy as a clam.
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you ever come to New York or east over here at all?
Would you believe I have never been to New York?
Oh, that's a shame.
Never. I've driven around it. I've flown over it. But every time there was an I'll tell you, the first opportunity I ever had to go turned out to be September 11th, 2001. I was supposed to go there, arrive there that day and be there for a couple of days after. And that didn't happen for obvious reasons. But
yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like, I guess I'll never go back.
No, I'd actually love to. I don't know. I've never really had an opportunity at a time that made sense to me to go, but I always plan on going there. But I want to do it right too. I'm not just going to show up for a day or two. I'd love to spend a week there.
Do you do any book tours at all?
No, it tends to be either conventions or local things like Panyang and the stores around here. But
are you going to StokerCon? Okay.
I don't think I'm doing any conventions this year. I've got so much else going on. I don't know if I get away with it. But of course, that's how I suck. I don't plan on doing all these things. I'll get an idea in my head to go to one. I'll just show up. Or I will commit to one and then decide that I don't want to go.
Yeah.
I'm awful. People keep asking me to do these things all the time. And there's no excuse because they invite you as a guest. They'll pay for everything. And I just go, no.
Yeah, I
used to do those all the time. The first 5 or 6, 10 years maybe I was doing this, I went to everything. But it got exhausting and I started getting really disillusioned with a lot of the authors I met. People like hero worship turned out to be, I don't know, rude to their fans or something. I can't stand that. I can't stand seeing that.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll get back into it at some point, but I don't know. Lately, I just kind of feel like my time is better spent doing the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never been to any of the conventions because when I started my channel, I was living in Berlin. So there was no way for me to get over here and do anything.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I really want to go to StokerCon, so I'm going to try. I mean, I don't know if I can do it financially. That's kind of why I'm like, probably not going to make it.
I prefer the more relaxed, smaller conventions too. Like Nikon was always great, but it tends to be more informal and campfirey than...
Ooh, that sounds nice.
Yeah, you should look up Nikon. It's in...
How do you spell it?
Necon.
Necon? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. Is it like, what kind of convention is it?
It's pretty much the same as any other, but it's way less official. It's more like you come, sell books, have hot dogs around the campfire. They tend to set them on campuses.
Okay.
So there's more of a party element involved. But lots of work gets done, lots of stories get told, there's panels. Pretty much every writer that I grew up reading has been a guest there at some point. I know Stephen King used to go. Charlie Grant, Doug Winter, Ramsey Campbell. They've had some great guests there. And I was a guest one year, so I went because I was a guest there.
And you didn't feel like not going, so you went.
No, and they caught me at just the right time. And then I nearly lost my leg while I was there.
Okay, what's that story? Tell me that story.
I got bitten by a recluse spider, and I couldn't walk.
One of my fears.
And it kept swelling and getting worse and worse. And I said, whatever, I'll just look at it, get it looked at when I go home. So I went to the doctor, and when she swung the light down, you could see all the dark red veins going up my leg.
Oh.
And she said, if you had come in here tomorrow, we'd be taking that leg off.
Oh, man. But you know what? There are so many cool prosthetics now for limbs. I'm kind of like, if I ever lose a limb, I don't think I'll be too sad about it, because actually look good.
Can I get the goth leg with the bat wing kneecaps?
Oh, no. I want like a Gilded Era, like, like something that looks not steampunk exactly, kind of more Victorian, but something like that.
Yeah.
I saw that you also love karaoke. So can you tell me your go-to karaoke song?
Interstate Love Song, Stone Temple Pilots. A lot of Stone Temple Pilots stuff, a lot of Nirvana, a lot of Seether.
Mm-hmm.
All the grunge stuff.
All the grunge stuff is really good, yeah.
And then I'll do Easy by the Commodores. Just to change things up.
So are you a big 90s grunge fan? Soundgarden?
I was in a band at the time. I just absolutely emulated all those bands. Soundgarden, Alice in Chains.
Yeah, they're so good.
Yeah. So because I'm not in a band anymore and I'm attached to the glory days of when I was.
You're a fellow band person, huh?
Do karaoke to just relive my glory days, which weren't that glorious, but I pretend they were.
So what was your band? What was the genre? What did you do?
Oh, it was a grunge band. I was the lead singer, played some guitar, and the band was called Wreck.
Wreck?
Which was appropriate because everyone in it was one.
You're like staying true to what's going on.
And I've grown up to become a bigger one, so,
Yeah, you can start. Do you want to get back to music at any point?
I think about it all the time, but I don't know.
You can do the sea shanty. You don't even need anybody. You can do it.
I do get back to it. It's going to be exclusively sea shanties. That I'll tell you right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we need.
I'll just be, my new TikTok channel is going to be the Irish Sea Shanty Man.
That would be really popular.
I'm going to grow my hair out and I'm going to tie up my beard.
And you need one of those sweaters, the fisherman sweaters.
One of the fisherman sweaters and a big tankard of mead and just be slamming it when I'm singing.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quit writing, in fact, and just do that.
Yeah, I don't think you should quit writing, but I think you should definitely make these.
I'll write sea shanties.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I love karaoke. I've never really done it much, but I do Soundgarden. It's like 4th of July is like my favorite.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, oh god, that song gets me. Yeah, I have a lower voice, so I usually do like guy songs. But yeah, love karaoke. Do you go to like a karaoke bar in Ohio? Or
scummiest ones I can find. They seem to have better sound, but if you sing the wrong song.
Yeah, no one cares. That's the thing is like I've seen the karaoke, not in person, but online. I've seen karaoke places like in Korea and Japan, and they have like private booths.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that's what I want. A private booth.
Yes. That's why I go to places like they're crappy, because they've low lighting and nobody can see how ridiculous I look while I'm doing it.
Yeah. Do you drink? Do you get a little saucy before
I have to. I get too nervous to do it sober, so I'll plug a couple of beers first and then go up and be like, "Hey, this one's for you."
It's amazing how much confidence a few beers will give you.
Oh, yeah.
Coming towards the end of this podcast, the last question I guess I want to ask you is, what is next for you? Like, what's coming up? I don't know, next week, next year, 5-year plans. Like, what's going on?
I love that you think I planned that far ahead, by the way. Yeah. I literally don't know what I'm going to do after I'm off this podcast. So I have finished the Sour Candy screenplay as well, and that's with the producer right now. So I'm hoping something will catch in that regard. In the interim, I have The Widows of Winding Gale on the way. And I have already started on a new novella for a publisher I can't mention yet, but it is a return to a place I have visited in previous stories. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
I'm excited at the opportunity to go back. And what else?
Is it a remaking, or is it like something that's part of that universe?
It's part of the universe, yeah. Okay. It's a return to an old town, an old friend of mine. Okay. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then it'll be back to the next full-length novel. I think will be on the menu, and whatever else happens in the meantime, because it's hard to predict what opportunities come along on a daily basis. But yeah, I think it'll be a more productive year this year than it has probably since the pandemic, when I had no choice but to sit here and write. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. But that's all I can think of right now. There's probably more, and I'll think of it as soon as I'm off here, because that's how my brain works.
Do you have any plans for the summer? Do you travel usually in the summer, or do you do?
I just got back from Ireland, and I think that might be the extent of the travel, at least planned. I may go somewhere towards the end of the year, because I love traveling around the country in the fall. So maybe I might find some mountain range and a cabin, hide out and write for a while.
Yeah,
nothing planned, nothing concrete in that regard, but I'm sure I'll end up somewhere.
Well, it was awesome to talk to you. Nice to meet you.
This was fun. Yeah.
Actually, sorry I lost half of the conversation.
It was
Thank
just
you so much
it was fine
for being a sport about it. Okay, so we can follow you on your Instagram at Kealan Patrick Burke. So if you guys want to keep following or follow Kealan, follow his journey with writing, keep up to date with him, please do that. Do you have any other socials that you want to share? Or
I'm a total clown on TikTok, which is just my name as well. I'm on Blue Sky, but I couldn't tell you what the address is, because it's like, again, it's just my name, but I don't know how that thing is formatted. Mm-hmm. And I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging around. You can watch this on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify or Amazon. Yeah, this was awesome. I had a really good time.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks for asking me to do it.
Yeah. Again, sorry for the technical difficulties, but thanks for taking time out of your day. I know it's been like 2 hours, so thank you so much.